Hello, welcome to On Point with Pafoua. Gas prices in Minnesota continue to climb, reaching a record high with an average price of $4.70, with diesel hitting an average of $5.40. Now, there's no doubt people across the state are feeling the effects, especially those who many would consider the backbone to our economy. John Hausladen, president of Minnesota Trucking Association, is here to talk about how high prices of gas are affecting the trucking industry. Thank you for joining us, John.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so the trucking industry, a lot of businesses people rely on to function. How has high gas prices affected the industry?
Well, to put it in context, Minnesota runs on trucking, trucking runs on diesel. When diesel goes up, everyone's affected, from the average consumer to the small fleet to the largest fleet and everyone in between.
Are trucking companies doing anything to try to lower the amount of money you're spending on fuel?
So trucking companies are always monitoring diesel costs, diesel consumption, diesel emissions. This precedes this run-up, but obviously you work very hard to make sure that you are not driving empty. You're making sure your routes are the most efficient, and frankly, you're finding the best price on the fuel. We have optimization software that fleets use to determine actually where's the best place to buy fuel based on pricing, because it is such a huge component.
Is high diesel also impacting schools, trucking schools?
Well, diesel is an input for anyone who uses a truck. So whether you are a fleet, a private for hire fleet that hauls freight, a company that's a manufacturer that happens to have equipment, or what if you're a truck driver training program that uses trucks to train those students? So yes, prices are going up, and fleets, have fuel surcharges and things like that to try and, well, not just try, they do pass the cost along to the customer that they're serving and ultimately to the consumer. But some of those programs, like truck driving programs, they can't pass it on as easily.
Yeah, that goes on to my next question about on top of high gas prices, there's already a shortage of truck drivers. Is this thwarting the efforts to recruit more truck drivers?
The cost of diesel is an ongoing issue with trucking. I wouldn't say it's making the workforce issue worse, because the issue has been pretty significant. We've had a systemic shortage. We have about 80,000 openings nationwide. We have over 5,200 openings in Minnesota for truck drivers, and that's been going on for quite some time. It's systemic, but there's some good news on the horizon in that the last federal highway bill has an apprenticeship program for a pilot to look at allowing younger drivers ages 18, 19, and 20 to get into these trucks. There's never been a school to work program, so we're excited about that, and that's something our organization has actively lobbied for.
Can you talk a little bit more about supply chain as well, and how that translates to high prices for consumers?
So the supply chain is literally that. It's a chain. It's made up of many links, and sometimes trucking is one of the links. We move things through it. And sometimes we're consumers. We buy things that come through the system. So we're really affected both ways. The fact that you have what you have, thank a trucker, because the things that are on the shelves are the things that we are delivering. But sometimes there are shortages. You've heard about the cargo containers sitting off the coast waiting to be unloaded. Or let's say China, where things are not even being manufactured yet and being shipped. Those create shortages. And so we can only deliver what's in the system. But similarly, we have trucks that have been sidelined because they're missing parts. There are trucks at assembly plants right now that are missing sensor chips or fuel injectors or brake drums because, well, if you don't have a brake, you can't roll that truck. And so these shortages have been flaring up and down based on different types of product.
Yeah. So we had a truck driver who recently told us that he spent about $1,200 on fuel on one truck in one day. On average, how much money is being spent on one truck?
So a truck could hold up to 300 gallons of fuel, but typically they're going to put in about 200. So you take a simple math, $5 times 200, that is your 1,000. So add 50 cents more to that. We get about 7 miles per gallon, and the average truck travels about 125,000 miles a year. It's a lot of fuel.
Would you say that smaller trucking companies are feeling more pressure than larger companies?
Here's what I would say. If you have established contracts with customers, Minnesota has a lot of great companies. If you have a customer with a contract, there's a fuel surcharge that's built in, and as it goes up, it's pretty automatic. But if you're on what we call the spot market, where you're just picking up a load, that may not be covering your costs. So the smaller you are and the more dependent you are on the spot market, the harder it is on you.
Are you seeing any smaller companies already on the verge of shutting down or doing less driving because of the high gas prices?
Fuel prices and trucking company failures do track in parallel, unfortunately. So when we see the prices get this high, some small companies, some drivers, some owner-operators do exit. Now sometimes they just say, I don't want to have my own company anymore, I'm just going to be an employee driver. It gets back to the shortage. Plenty of truck driving jobs, so whether you want to be your own company owner or you want to drive for someone else, you can always find a job, and they're good paying jobs now, driving truck.
Do you know how many goods are actually being transported on the road in Minnesota?
Here's what we like to say, if you got it, a truck brought it. I like to do a little test when I speak to groups and say, name something in this room that did not travel at some time on a truck. It's virtually impossible. Someone will always say air. Well, and the only other thing we don't deliver is babies, right? But the truth is, everything spends some time on the truck. So you can't hardly move without saying that didn't come to us on a truck.
All right. Anything else you would like to add, John?
Well, I think the thing to remember is that trucking is essential. We've been through hard times before. This is certainly not a time to panic. Okay, some things may be slower, some things may take time. We're going to get the job done. That's what we do. And I don't think we need to worry about that. But I do think patience is the watchword of the day.
It's been a pleasure having you. We'll have more on Alpha News on how the hard-hitting fuel economy is affecting not only the trucking industry, but other services as well. Don't forget to sign up for our free daily newsletter. You're watching On Point with Pafoua. I'll see you next time.